Hi there, this is Dr. Tom Knotts, and I'm trying to put as many videos as I can, but due to time constraints and health, I'm limited in how many I can do. Today, I want to teach you on the dark child, but I want to teach on the three infants and what you find within the dark child. Remember, it's a self-replicating system. Unless you cut the head of the serpent off, it will continually regrow. And I remember going back as far as over 20 years ago, I was contacted by a counseling center off the East Coast, actually several of them. And they said, we keep going in and integrating personalities. And then the next time I go in, they're there again. And he says, why are they continually there? Why are they not integrating? And it's because you haven't gone to the base where the actual memories are held in the true person. When they take the infant, prior to the infant's conception, it's called a feast to the beast. And it's because they're feeding the beast a living sacrifice. When they come together to conceive the child, they will have the mother as the recipient, but they will have the husband, the father, her father, and his. They'll have both grandparents if they can. They will have about 5 to 12 different men in the act. A minimum of 5, and it depends on the configuration and the entity that they're seeking. Each entity has a specific number associated with it in its worship. So the Feast of the Beast, just like Rosemary's Baby, was basically their way of showing it to the world to help educate other Satanists, is where they offer the flesh of the infant, that which is about to be conceived. They will seek to make it a chimera. And a chimera is where more than one egg is fertilized, and then the one egg will then consume the other one, thus creating the first murder in the womb. They will also have one egg fertilized by several different individuals. And people will say, well, that's impossible. No, it's not only not impossible, it happens quite a bit. It's a form of twinning. And so, that's why you can have a mother who gives birth to a child and she's fooled around on the husband, and they'll do a DNA test. And I've counseled quite a few couples over this. And they'll say, well, the DNA test was inconclusive. It says that both could be the father. Well, it's because they both probably are. And that's why you can have a infant that has two different DNAs. The organs will have a different DNA structure or sequence than the skin and the flesh or the blood. And that's called chimerization. So they will have a multitude of individuals having sex with the mother. It will be filled with all forms of debauchery, cannibalism. It's a very long and drawn out ritual. The child will be conceived, and after the egg is fertilized, the next thing that happens is the entity will actually enter into that egg. It happens spontaneously. The devil will physically manifest in one of the men, usually the woman's father. And then the other entities will manifest inside of each of the other men. So as they're having sex with the woman, so will all the other entities that are attached to them. And this is how they create the Nephilim, or the unholy angel spirit inside of the child. They then have it sealed. It's called a hermetic magic ritual with a hermetic magic ring. They will insert within her 3 different rings, wedding her to the God of this world in her flesh, her soul, and her spirit. 1 ring for each, and 1 ring symbolic of Ashtaroth, Satan, and Beelzebub. They will take and do a variety of sacrifices, and they will grind it up into in a pumice stone. They will grind it up and mix it together, and in it will have a variety of different things, from animal semen and DNA to a living serpent, a poisonous one that be ground up in there, and a variety of other things, from bull semen, horse semen, human semen, skin, blood from sacrifice, fresh. And then, of course, the living serpent will be killed by the cudgel and ground up. And then they'll roll it into 3 rings, put it on the head of a phallic, and insert it, and it'll be absorbed into the womb. And after that ritual has been done, that ritual is usually done at the age of 3 for females. It seals that so that when it comes time, she'll be able to celebrate the Feast of the Beast with her husband and family members. And in this way, it passes the sins of all these different family members and lines into that infant, compounding the sin. I didn't realize this video is going to be this long, but now I'm realizing it's a lot of explaining. So then what happens is once the child is conceived, they then begin the rituals of dedicating the body, the soul, and the spirit over to the 3 entities. The body, or the flesh, is given over to Ashtoreth, the 5-pointed star going down. The soul, or the heart, is given to the god of this world, Satan, going up, or Lucifer, Baal, whatever name you prefer. The spirit is given over to Beelzebub, and that's where the 7 unholy spirits will attach themselves and make their strongholds and create what's called the Baphomet or the Baphomet, which is the 7 unholy spirits that come together. And you see, this is why they have the variety of people involved in the Congress Act, which will produce the child, because each one of them will have one of these unholy spirits in them, thus making them the father of the child, as they've joined in with the person. So what then happens is they do a ritual to separate the body, the soul, and the spirit. The heart, which is the soul, will be split into 4 quarters, one for each of the heads of Satan. And each one of these cherub heads will be over one of the 4 parts of the heart. In the center will be the throne of the god of this world, and he will sit and rule. Now he will be either Lucifer or Baal or Satan, and he will give a false light. So the person will have a point in their life where they think that they are born again. And that's because the god of this world has blinded their minds, and it's called the An, the Ansof, the Ansof-ur. Each one is a layer, and it's called the Veils of Isis in Egyptian ritual magic and Masonic lodge magic. The Masons are very heavily steeped in Egyptian magic, Hermetic magic, and what we call Jewish Kabbalistic magic, along with Babylonian magic. It's those 3. That's why they call the holy name of God Jobuel. They mix Jehovah, Baal, and Ashtaroth. Jehovah, Baal, and Ashtaroth together. So the Masons do this ritual also. And you go to Genesis chapter 17, where the Lord says, I will be your God, and a God to your seed after you. They use that verse and they do the opposite, and they commit Satan to be their God and the God of their seed after them. So it's a reversal and the antithesis of the Abrahamic promise. I hope this makes sense to you. So it's all done legally. Now, what they do when they split the body, the soul, and the spirit is it gives each one of these literally archangels, fallen archangels, authority over them and their minions. So the heart will have the 4 heads of Satan over it. It'll have Satan in the middle as the throne. So there'll be a throne, which is a high-ranking angel. It's a cherub with at least 2 faces, or mostly 4, though. More powerful will have 4, and they'll hold each one of the throne. The throne will actually be the heart. And this is where he tries to sit in what's called the seat of the north and replicate what Jesus does. Jesus is Emmanuel. He saves our soul. He enters our heart. He seals it, circumcises it, makes it flesh so we can feel him, so he can change us, lead us, guide us. It's called the volitional aspect of man, or that which voluntarily makes decisions. The spirit, and each one of these will have an infant, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. The spirit will have the 7 unholy spirits of Beelzebub over it, with Beelzebub reigning. It is called the Baphomet or the Baphomet, and it will control the desires, the lusts, the things that attach the flesh to the soul. Then you have the flesh, which will be given over to Ashtoreth. The flesh is where you're going to find all the witches, the dark lords, the warlocks, the pureblood Satanists. And so what they'll do then is once they've sealed Ashtaroth, Beelzebub, and Satan into these three parts, they do it through vows and rituals and sacrifices. For instance, most people don't know, but at the 32nd level, to become a 32nd level Mason, you have to drink blood, wine, and urine mixed into a skull. I've seen people on their knees drinking from that cup. And you have to give yourself over and your family for all time and eternity to Apollyon and Abaddon, the destroyer. Masons do very serious blasphemy in every vow. Same with the Eastern Star. The Masonic Lodge symbolizes Satan or Lucifer, the Eastern Star, Ashtoreth, and when you bring them together, it creates the god of this world, Beelzebub, in that family line. That's what the G stands for in the Masonic ring. Now, they will take and then split each one of these parts. They've divided it into three parts: the body, the soul, and the spirit. And so they will take and they begin first with the body because the brain's not fully developed. And as a result, the child can't pass out. So they will torture the body. And they will split young alternate personalities out of the flesh, which will be the witches. There will be at least 5. I've seen as many as 12 with the 13th in the middle. It depends on the sect, SECT, of the occult that they practice. So that witchcraft is the base of everything they are. It's the deception. It's the dark side. It's the dark side of the moon that they cannot ever see. It's completely separated from the spirit and the soul. Now, the witch part will always come out at night. It will take over the body, and it's like a doppelganger, and it will do all the works of the flesh. It'll have incest, it'll have torture, it'll eat feces, it'll do debauchable acts, it'll do murder, sacrifice. And the person that is out in the daytime, the normal person, is from the soul part. So they have no idea about what's going on with this other part because they fuse and go to sleep. They begin building the spirit after the age of 10 months. And that's when they'll shift because they've already sealed at least 5 to 12 witches dedicated to Satan and his worship and fully knowledgeable, fully powerful. They've already developed it and sealed it. They do what's called a ritual of confirmation. The males will do it at the age of 2, the females at the age of 3. And that's when they then begin to work on the spirit. And they begin doing the rituals to create the Tower of the Babylonians. It will usually be situated in the throat. It'll have the opening in the third eye of the head. It's at this point that the seraphim wrap around the spinal cord, come into the arms, so that whatever you do for the work of Satan, and you just don't realize it, or the false god, because it appears as an angel of light. Why do you think so many of these Hillsong people are actually gay and lesbian and pedophiles, but yet they write all this supposedly Christian music? But if you've slowed down, and I did this 20 years ago, I slowed down some of their videos and showed how they had flashes of images of Lucifer and other things, what they would call Lucifer and fallen angels, mixed in, because your eyes can't pick it up, but your uncognitive mind can. That's a form of conditioning and programming. And they get those images flashed in because they're occultist. The Masonic Lodge, Eastern Star, the occult is very big in Australia. The originator of Hillsong was a pedophile, homosexual pedophile. It was not only proven, but for some reason he was kept out of the courts until after his death because the Masonic Lodge controls the courts. They each have a different part in what they play in society and governing. So the spirit will become attached. It will be controlled by Beelzebub. Beelzebub is the consummation or the bringing together of the 7 unholy principalities. Because just like Jesus has the 7 spirits of God Beelzebub brings together 7 unholy spirits to do the opposite of all the works of God. They'll split personalities out of that. So you'll have parts that are very religious, very moral, but also very given over to the flesh. In your beta programming or sexual programming, you're going to find that that is in the spiritual part. So they will take and split all their kittens, all their lions, all their dogs, all their monkeys, all their apes. You say, why are you talking about animals? Because in order to perform acts of bestiality, you create animal parts because it's natural for a horse to have sex with a horse. It's natural for a cow to have sex with a bull, and they will. It's natural for a dog to have sex with dogs. It's natural for monkeys to have sex with gorillas. They create those sexual parts as animals, and it'll be like a human body with an animal head when you see it. Sometimes it's a full-blown horse. I've seen people drop to their knees and start whining like a horse. It's pawing the ground, not in control of their mind, because they're 100% possessed by that spirit. They also create the sexual parts for the goddess. To them, they smile. They always smile for the camera and they do the parts, but they're using sex as a tool, a manipulation, and a weapon to entrap people. If you got a married man and you film him having sex, whether he's a congressman or something, with a young girl that's, say, underage, 8, 9, or 10, or 2 or 4, you can always use that footage against him. And they will. They'll threaten them, and that's how they bring them in. But once they bring them in, they happily want to do it because they like raping young children. They like hurting people. And that's because of their flesh side, which is formed first. It likes to hurt and cause pain to others. It's a complete psychopath. The fleshly side will be a complete psychopath that will not be able to feel. It is completely detached from the heart and the emotions and the feelings. It is as cold as a dead body, and it is dead. So, it will only be able to feel when it's hurting others. Its only reason for existence is to serve the darkness and to hurt and bring in more of the kingdom of darkness. The spiritual side will be that which works off of the lusts, but it will use them for the empowerment and betterment of the kingdom of darkness. I remember, this is going back, 13 years ago, when some women in Washington, D.C. Were caught having sex with animals on a farm, and but all the other people disappeared. I mean, they said cars were going in every direction, and here's these women still on these tables to hold them up so that horses were having sex with them, and they were whining and braying. Well, the women claimed when they came to their right mind, they didn't know why they were there, why they were being arrested, why they were naked, why they were covered with feces and stuff. And the reason is they didn't know it. They were programmed and controlled. It's called a mind control slave. And their owners and their users escaped. It happens all the time. People that are mind controlled don't know what they do because they are split into several different personalities. Now, they will take and split the flesh, the spirit, and the soul. They will then take out of the soul the heart, and they will split and have 3 primary personalities. Not 2, 3. You see, the first split happens, and it splits 2 parts, which is the body and the spirit. Okay? Then those will be split into 2. The soul is the one that's got the first angel in it, or the Nephilim, and it goes to the top of the tree. But these will have 2 split up and 2 split down. And then they will have 3 out of those. So it's actually like the trident of Aquaman in the movie series. Very interesting. If you look at ancient tablets showing Ishtar or Ashtoreth, you'll see on both sides of her the 3-headed trident up with 3 points going down. But it'll be split out of 2 and out of a single one. Okay. So they will then split the personalities, and all the things of fantasy and of the world will be in that part. That's also where you're going to find your assassins, where you're going to find, those that are trained and skilled for computers, whatever the job is, they have a part in there for it. Now, they split the three, and usually it'll be one infant split into three infants for each one, and then each one of those come up will be split into four. When people say they need to find the core, they're talking about one of those four. Well, what they don't seem to realize is that there are three sets of four at a minimum. The true way it is there's four sets of four, four sets of four, four sets of four. Each one, that's 12. So there'll be 12 cores. Out of those 12 cores will then be split 12 altars coming out of each one of the four splits. This is what creates what's called the kaleidoscope. Each one's a little bit different in a variation. So it'll go from green to red, and this will be solid green, and then green with a little bit of red, green with a little more red, until it reaches the red, and it's 100% red. So it creates the kaleidoscope. So you'll have 48 alternate personalities split out of each one of these four. Those 48 will come together with the singular one, which creates the fourth set of four, and that's at the actual life force. This is called the 16. There are 16 cores at that point. The four at the base will actually be a complete replicating system for everything coming out. And I don't know who this guy is, but he's pretty filthy. So unfortunately, he's a bad person. And so what they do then is that is the backup system that's in the no conscious part of the brain. It's at the base of the brain in the lower. You have the 3/8 where the central fissure point is, and just below that, a thin slice, is the no conscious. It's called the computer. It's called the basement and mind control programming. Now, out of the soul, you will have all the parts that fit into society. There will be two primary parts, which are at the base, but then out of them will be split 3 each, with 4 each split out of them. And that's why it looks like a tree. It's called the tree of life and the tree of death, because on the bottom side, to balance it out, you'll have one that's the opposite. So you'll have a very virtuous Christian on the top, or Hindu or Muslim, whatever the religion of their area is, but then you'll have the exact opposite on the bottom because of the balance. So in the next video, I will get into describing how you bring this person to salvation. And I pray the Lord blesses you. I don't do these videos to speak down to anyone. I'm worn out. I've spent over 30 years integrating personalities and setting people free and taking demonic things out. Witches, warlocks, occultists, Muslims, Hindus, Masons, Eastern Star, Luciferians, you name it, can be saved, and God wants to save them. And, it's like in my book of tongues, I point out that every religious group in the world speaks in what they call tongues. And it's because when they become demonically empowered, if you watch the Muslims 3 times a day, they'll get on their rug. Their eyes, I worked with Muslims, will roll back in their head and turn white. And then out of their mouth comes ecstatic speech. And it's actually Babel, which in the Hebrew means the tongue of Baal. And that means the God of this world has filled them. He's called Allah by the Muslims, but he's really Baal, which means the father of the fallen angels, Ba-al. So this is what happens. Most people don't realize it, but Adolf Hitler and the leaders of the Reich would all open by dedicating themselves fresh to the prince of this world, and then they would literally, their eyes would roll back and turn black, and they would all begin babbling and babble. They said it was not uncommon for it to be for over 2 hours straight. They would be in there just babbling in circles. That's because they willingly allowed themselves to become possessed They sought to become possessed. Just like in the days of Noah, they were wedding and giving themselves in marriage to unholy spirits. That's what they were doing. So, in the next lecture, I'm teaching you this so you can help people be free, because a true mind control slave doesn't know they are one. A true ancient warlock and witch doesn't realize that most of the time, those are on the bottom rank, 80% of them don't know their brain has been split. So you've got a dark side you know nothing about, and then that you have the side you live in that side knows nothing about. That's why the Grateful Dead, back when they were called Warlock, their symbol was a lightning bolt going through the skull. And it's actually an ancient symbol, and it means to split the brain, to give one half to the god of darkness and one half to the god of light. The whole Mayan May Day celebration is when they worship the dark side. And all right, so Lord bless you guys, and I pray this helps you. And this is Dr. Tom, and Christ love.